Hey everybody, welcome. We are live for another Masterclass session. Today we're going to be showing power users how to homebrew their own weapons. And as you can see here on the screen, I've got at least a dozen different weapons to show you what you can create using the methods within this stream. So just take a good look. You can kind of get an idea here. There's a range between warhammers, swords, staves, daggers, all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot that you can kind of do with the tool. We'll show you how to make a lot of this kind of stuff. Should be easy. Hey, how's it going, Typer Zero? Awesome. Got some people in here. Okay. So again, welcome to another masterclass. We are going to be homebrewing weapons. As you can see on the screen, this is give you an idea of what you can create with the methods that we're going to be learning here. Let's go ahead and just kind of cover the overall outline or the syllabus for the stream so that people have an idea of what we're going to be learning. Step one, we're going to talk about how to come up with a prompt, because I know that sometimes it can be difficult to come up with an idea on what kind of weapon to make. Then we're going to assemble the weapon, and I'll show you several methods on how you can kind of put those together. Then we're going to be establishing a naming convention. I know that sometimes it can be kind of challenging to figure out what to call your weapon. 4, we're going to do tips for adding stats, just a short little list of tips that you can do for adding stats. And then finally, we're going to be taking users' requests. So it isn't going to take very long to go through step 1 through step 4. That's probably going to be about 10 minutes or so. And then we'll have the rest of the stream to kind of go over requests. Okay. And then my request for your requests is to just keep the weapon description down to just a little blurb, because the longer it is to read, then the less likely I'll be able to choose it to make it in the request. Now, for those of you who make a request and it doesn't get made, don't worry. Leave those in the chat, and then I will compile a list of all of those ones that were missed, and then I will make those off stream, okay? All right. Yeah, I'll be showing you how to do metallic objects in this, by the way, Jonathan Frost, so don't worry. So now that you kind of know what we're going to be covering, let's go ahead and talk about first, how is it that you kind of come up with a prompt? And this isn't difficult. This is actually pretty easy. It's really just as simple as just picking the weapon type. So it could be an axe, a sword, a dagger, a whip, a firearm, a bow and arrow, an arbalist, whatever it might be, and then plus a element, an effect, a spell, a status effect, whatever it might be. So for instance, this weapon right here could be called a fire axe, or if you wanted to come up with more of a name, you could call it Vulcan's Edge, because Vulcan is the fire god. So you could call it that. So it's really as simple as just picking first the weapon type and then picking what kind of effect that it has. Because if it were just a normal axe, then you wouldn't even need this stream. You would just use the stock axe or sword or whatever. So it's really that easy. It's as simple as picking the weapon and then picking the effect that you want to have. Next is actually assembling the weapon. So once you've come up with the prompt, then you want to come up with the assembly of the weapon. And there are 2 methods that I primarily use the most, but it's not limited to. There are other users like Jeremy who has just hand-painted entire weapon without using any kind of stamps. Now, I'm not going to be showing that because that would take up an entire masterclass stream, if not a couple episodes. But we'll show you 2 methods that are quick, that are easy, and that way it's not so complex when you're trying to put together your weapons. The first method is to simply augment the weapon, right? So you could just type in weapon into the catalog and then just pick out of these weapons. I'll go ahead and expand all assets so I can see all of them. And we even have some new art, by the way, this dwarven art. So you've got like a dwarven axes here, dwarven sword, warhammer. So there's a lot of new stuff that's going to be coming out with 2.0. You've got some explosives here. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's going to be coming up. But let's start with something simple, right? Let's start with maybe like a sword or an axe. It doesn't really matter which one you pick. Let's go with this axe right here. So I pick an axe, right? And then from there, I want to decide the prompt, remember, which is maybe it's a fire axe, maybe it's an ice axe, whatever it might be, you can decide for yourself, right? And so you pick the weapon, and then you're going to augment it. So we have to pick something. So I'm going to say frost, like maybe it's an ice axe or something. Compliments to Jeremy, because Jeremy came up with a hand frost axe. And so shout out to them. I'm going to be making like this frost double-sided axe. And so what we'll do here is that we've picked the main object to augment, and now we can go to the shape tool and maybe pick a texture that we can put on top of the blade to give it that elemental effect. So we'll turn stroke off. We'll choose fill. We'll go into the fill texture, and we can kind of choose a texture that we want to implement. Like this ice, deep blue ice works fine. Then we'll go ahead and choose the pen. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use the pen and go over the axe itself with the pen. And then I'm just going to have this texture show up over here like this. So just give that a moment to kind of show up here. And you only have to do one side of the axe because you don't have to do both with the pen. You can just make it a shape, and then you're going to go ahead and just flip it. So let's go ahead and add it to the, I think it's a shape, might be below it. So let's go up. So you can see that the blade is there. Let's maybe change the fill texture, and then let's change the blend mode to interact with the blade itself. So I can choose darken, multiply, color, lighten, screen, color dodge. I can use overlay, which I think overlay works pretty good. It already gives it kind of a frost-like look. So we'll copy and paste that, and then just flip it. So I'm going to do this and then choose flip, face the other way, and then just add that right to the axe itself right there like that. So now I have that. Now, it's not enough. Maybe I want to keep adding more to it. Like maybe I want to add some kind of aura. So using a light source is always a great way to give it like this glowing aura-like feel to it. So I'll just use this blue light that I have and just place it right on top. And it already kind of gives it that blue kind of frost kind of glow to it. Now we can add more to it. You want to show that it's like a frost. We can add things like, we can maybe look in a pack that's got snow, like there's Nordic stuff. Oopsie, that's from the wrong style. We'll go back in here, fantasy battle maps, open that up. Let's maybe type in ice. Let's take a look here. Yeah, we'll get to, don't worry, we'll get to suggestions soon. First, let's just kind of go over the methods here. You know, I think maybe a crystal might work best. Let's try a crystal. Maybe one of these ones, or maybe this one right here. I'm not sure. We could put like a crystal at the top, or we can add like a goblet or something. There's a lot of different things that you can kind of come up with. Like here's this one right here. This right here might work fairly well. I think this looks kind of nice. It's like a headpiece that goes on top, but I don't really like the color. So we could just change it to this bluish kind of color like this. And then we'll just put it right here on the edge like this. And you've got this nice headpiece on the top. You could even add another light source kind of on top of that if you wanted to. So it's kind of light kind of glowing there. So now that you're kind of adding to the weapon. We can also maybe take some snow. It's kind of associated with ice and winter. So we could take some snow and just put it right over that like that. And then just bring the opacity down a little bit. And then you kind of have this nice weapon part here. So now you can add more to it. Like we could add something to the bottom of it just to kind of add more to it, because there seems to be more here. You could use like a skull or whatever. And what I normally do is I kind of choose elements that are going to work best with it. So, you know, like I could use, let's actually use a skull. That could be nice. Let's go with skull. Put that down. Let's use this one right here. And then just put it right at the bottom like that. Turn off the shadow. And if you wanted it to be a different color, you could. Like I could change this and change the hue to make sure that the handle is more of a bluish color. Just bump up the saturation. That way I got some blue there. And then same thing with this. I'm going to bump the saturation up and just change the hue a little bit. This kind of bluish color. I think I'll bump the contrast up a little bit. Bring the brightness down. And then kind of get that bluish color that I'm looking for. Okay, and now you have this nice create group, and we can call it whatever we want, a frost axe. We can change it, but you get the general idea, right? And then I'm just going to tilt it like this just to make it more interesting. So not complex, right? You have this nice, easy axe. You've augmented it with lights, the shape tool, other stamps, effects, and then it kind of brings it to life, right? And then what you do is, remember, you make it large you build it large, and then you can scale it down to its original size. Because of this, when it's rather large, right, you can see the thick line work. So I always just scale it down so that way it's not too big and the line work's not too crazy. So first method, augmentation. That's the first step. The next step is just to make it yourself out of parts and pieces. So it's not complex. For instance, let's say that I wanted to make this same axe, only different axe shapes, or I wanted to have a one-sided axe. I could totally do that. So what you would do first is build the handle of the axe, and a pole works great for that. So I can go in, just type in pole, and you'll see there's this nice pole. And I'm going to make sure that the top face, that's this face right here, that face is facing upward, because if it's facing downward, then it's going to be weird, right? So face upward. Now you have the pole. Now you could make it a little bit thicker. I can go to transform, change the width, so it's nice and thick. Nice thick handle, just like it is right here. I can also change that color again to get that blue color that I'm looking for. And then I can decide to make the blade itself. And so you can make a blade with the shape tool. It's not complex. First, what I like to do is just turn the grid on, so that way I can use the grid as a guide when I'm putting together the shape. And then what I'll do is I'm going to change the grid size a little bit to maybe have 40 cells, so it's a little bit smaller. The smaller the grid, the more fine-tuned details I can make when I'm making the blade's edge. Okay, so shape tool first. And then from here, you need to decide what kind of texture that you want to use for the blade. And that's up to you. I generally either use this gray ground, or you can also use, there's another one, I forgot the name of it. I think it's called concrete. Let me type it in and see if I can find it. Nope, it's not there. I'm not sure where it's located, but there's another one there that you can also use for it. Let's just use this one right here for now. I think this gray ground, oh, there it is right there, stone. You can use stone, or you can use gray ground. Either one of those works just fine. So first what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly place down the shape so that I can kind of see what it looks like. I'm also going to take the grid all the way down to like beneath the stamps, so it's not in the way. I'm also going to take this right here. Let's see, is the grid all the way down to layer -5? Yes, it is. Okay. And then this shape right here, which we're going to set to normal. And then I'm going to choose a stroke. We're going to use a black line. You don't have to use a black line if you don't want to. It's up to you, but I'm just going to add a black line so it's just easier to see the shape. And then you can kind of see the color as well. If you don't like this, you can always change it up. Like I could desaturate it so it has a more steel color. I can bring the contrast down so that it's not quite as, those artifacts aren't quite popping out as much, so I could do that. There's a lot of different things that you could do to get that metal thing, but I recommend using a texture so that way the metal at least has some kind of texture on it. Otherwise, if you use a flat color, you'll have to probably paint some of those textures in yourself. So just kind of keep that in mind, okay? So let's say that I want to now make this different shape for the axe instead of this double-bladed side. This is pretty easy stuff. I would just simply snap to grid. That's step one. And then I would want to choose the shape. Do I want a curved blade? Do I want a straight blade? What kind do I want? If I'm going to start with a curved blade, then I recommend you use the circle shape. So you start with the circle shape first. So here's the edge. Right here, we're going to establish the edge as being on the left side. And on the right side, I'm going to have it connect to the pole. So what I'll do is I'll go back to the shape. I'm going to go to preview. And then I'm going to make that shape all over again. I'm going to make sure that it snaps a little bit. I'm going to try to carve out. I'm going to turn snap to grid off because it's having a hard time staying in place here. Let me undo it, actually. Let's try it again. Preview. There we go. Oh, snap to grid. Turn that on. There we go. Snap to grid. And always kind of make it a little bit bigger when you're making it. Don't make the shape very, very tiny. Make it fairly large, and that way you can scale it down and you can deal with the details. So I'm going to go plus. Then I'm going to go back this way. I'm going to scale it down a little bit more. About this size, I think, should work good. Let's turn the snap to grid off because it's kind of getting in my way. Right here, like this. Let's go minus. So here's that part of the blade. Now I need to connect it to the pole itself. So I'm going to go back, preview, turn my snap to grid back on to make sure that I'm snapping to the grid. Let's start here, plus. with this one. Let's have another one that goes out this way. Let's make it go a little farther out, like this, plus, there we go, kind of goes a long way. I want it to make sure that the blade doesn't accidentally hit the actual rod itself. And then from here, I might want to add some details. So I'm going to go to preview here, and I'm just going to remove some of these pieces. Let's turn the snap to grid off. It's going to get in the way. Go right here. Let's connect it right about here. Go minus. Let's do minus again. There we go. Now we have the connector to it, and I can put this right up against the blade here. You can put it up to the front if you want, so it covers up like this. It covers the rod. Let's go ahead and turn that shadow off. So now I have this shape right here. That's the first part of the blade, right? But then I can also create other parts of the blade as well. And I can even just use this. I can copy and paste this whole thing right here. I'm going to snap it to the grid. And then I'm just going to delete sections that I don't want to use. So I'm going to go here, go to subtract, remove that piece. Let's take snap to grid off real quick because it seems to be getting in the way a little bit here. And then I can take this same piece right here like this, and then just put it right up against this edge like this. Let's bring it down a layer like this. Let's maybe just curve it, make it a little bit smaller. And then we have the back part of the axe like this. Okay, so that's the first step. It's just putting together the shapes, putting the axe together. We can even make this just a little bit smaller, so that way it kind of tapers off a little bit. And let's maybe edge it this way a little bit. There we go. So you have that part. Now we need to add in the lights and the shadow part. Because right now you notice that it's kind of flat. So how is it that I make it to where this blade isn't flat, right? So we're going to add light and shadow. So let's go to the shape tool, and we're going to use the line tool. We're going to have one line that's going to be black, and we're going to have it blurry. I'm going to change it to blur. I'm going to bring the opacity or the stroke size up. I'm going to bring the blur like this around that shape. So I have one black, and then I'm going to copy and paste, place it again, and then switch the color to white. Okay, so here's the part where to know where to put the white edge and the darker edge. The white edge is going to be the sharp edge. That means the cutting edge of the blade. So when I place this white edge down right here, I want to put it along this edge right here, along that edge right there. I'm going to follow it with either a pen or a mouse. You can also just use shapes. It's up to you. I'm going to go in and just put this white edge along there. Now it's kind of small and it's hard to see. So what I'll end up doing is maybe bringing the blur down a little bit so I can kind of see the edge is a little bit more defined. So that's the cutting edge that's going to be white. And then we're going to use this darker edge to show the shadows. And we're not going to be sharp. So I'll go ahead and use that black edge, that black color right here. And then I'm going to put it along the back edge like this. And I'll probably have to end up changing the shape a little bit to make sure that it fits right. So I can go ahead and put this edge here. I'm going to copy and paste this. All I have to do is just flip it like this. That's the beauty of using the shape tool and the line tool. You don't have to do it multiple. And then we'll add another shape in there. But this time I'm going to bring this size down a little bit. Let's just play with it and see if I can see the size. A little bit smaller. There we go. Okay. And then I'll go ahead and add that edge along here. Again, you can only just copy and paste. So just copy and paste, flip it again, place it right here. And then for this edge right here, the edge can be the white right here. So this edge right here is going to be the sharp edge. So we'll add in that white sharp edge there. It's a little too bright there. So what I'll end up doing is just maybe bring the stroke size down and then just bring the opacity down. We'll get a sharper edge there, and then we'll add that darker edge. Oopsie, undo. Add that darker edge underneath right here like this. So this is kind of the quick method on adding light and shadows to your blades. It's kind of the simple way, and the more details that you do, the more that you play with each edge and stuff, the better it will get. So the more strokes and the more light and shadow you add, but it's actually easier than you think. Just remember this little cheat. You're going to have the white highlight be on the sharp edge, and you're going to have the dark the dark shadow part on the edge that isn't sharp, and also away from kind of countering from the lighter edge. So adding shadows is easier than you think. It just takes a little bit of practice to kind of make sure you line it up with the blade and do all these other things. So it's a little bit of work to kind of put things together. But once you get the idea on how to put the shapes together and how to use the lines, it doesn't become very complex. So it's easier than you think. So let's go ahead and kind of finish up this. I'm going to add this blade here. And you know what? It might not be a bad idea to maybe add a spike to the edge of it. So I can add like this spike right here on this edge right here. I'm going to drop the saturation down so it's the same kind of gray color right here. So I have a spike on the top here. You can even add a little spike at the bottom down right here. So that way you can use multiple parts of the weapon, right? Technically, this would be kind of like a halberd a little bit, but you have multiple ways to use this weapon. You can charge to lunge inward with a stab. You could do a slashing strike. You use the weight of the weapon to come crashing down on the enemy. That's the beauty of an axe, is its weight, its momentum. It can be swung. And then also, again, it has that stabbing potential as well, that you can stab both ways. Like if you're on the ground, you can stab them with the other end. So there's both ways to kind of go about that. And then just like we did with the first one here, we can just add light sources on top of the blade, or I can go in and just change the blade. So I can go in like this, change the shape. There's that shape, and just go straight over to the blue edge right here like this. And so now I have that blue shape there. And of course, you'll have to change some of the shadow work when you change the texture. So I could just take that shadow work that I did right here, those black lines, and all I have to do is just select them all and then just change the blend mode to overlay. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. Oop. Oop, not working with overlay. Let's go with maybe darken, and then we'll bring the opacity down. Then you have those darkened edge. And then of course, I think if you want, we forgot to add in the outline around it. My bad. So stroke, bring that way down. And in fact, because the blade is a frost, we could probably use a blue outline instead. Let's maybe use a darker blue outline. I think that kind of makes more sense. And then we can bring the size up a little bit more. And then I want to make sure that the opacity is all the way up. There we go. Okay, that looks good. You can also just change that color to blue. That's a little thick. Let's change the thickness on that a little bit. A little too thick. There we go. Okay. I think that about looks right. Let me make sure that the opacity and everything is up. That looks about right. And then I think, I'm not sure what blend mode this is on right here. Overlay. Let's change it back to normal. Ah, there we go. It's a little bit better. Now I can kind of see the edge a little bit better. There we go. Okay. So you can change it that way too. It's up to you, and then add all the light sources. So lots of different ways that you can kind of go about doing it, but start with the handle first, and then you can make, like if it was a sword, I would start with using a pole for a handle, and then you would start with the hilt, and then the cross guard, or some kind of, if it even has a guard on it, and then you would make the blade out of the shape tool. So you start with the part in which the hand grips. So it could be a rod, it could be a handle for a sword or an axe, whatever it might be, and the poles are perfect for using that. So you get the general idea for methods, right? Augmenting an already existing weapon, or build the weapon yourself using stamps, the shape tool, stamps, stuff like that. So it's not complex. Putting it together is pretty easy. So you get that idea. So then let's go ahead then and go on to the next one, which is, how is it that I go about like naming my weapons? And I'll go ahead and turn this grid off here. How is it that I name stuff? And this one can be kind of complex. Sometimes people use naming generators, and that's fine, like a fantasy naming generator. That worked great. But my method, there are 3 ways that I kind of go about doing it. One is weapon plus effect. So you would simply name the weapon and the effect. So hammer of light, okay, or poisoned dagger, or gravity swords. That's the most simplest way. It's just the weapon and then whatever effect that it has. And you can be creative about naming the effect. The next one is just general descriptors. Like you could call the hammer of light the light bringer. Or the poison dagger could be called the Vorpal Cutter. A Vorpal means fatal. So the poisoned blade, right? The Vorpal Cutter. Or your gravity swords could be called light stealers. Those are general descriptors. So not complex, right? Next is just to give that name of that weapon an individual name, like an actual name, like a person has a name. Like you could call the Hammer of Light Luxorion. Or you could call the poison dagger the Blade Sinister. Or you could call the gravity swords the Event Horizon. So when you think about naming conventions, start with the easiest thing first, like weapon plus the effect. Once you start to feel like, well, what happens if I don't like the weapon effect? I don't like the idea that the weapon's name, Hammer of Light. So instead call it Light Bringer, because it brings light. And if you don't like that, don't like general descriptors, then come up with a name for the weapon that make it pop out. Like you could I use the word lux, Latin for light. So when I think Luxorion, I've put the idea of the light into the individual name, right? But it doesn't have to be like a name like Bob or Sassy or whatever. It could also be like the Blade Sinister, which is also kind of a general descriptor, but it has an interesting name to it, right? Or the Event Horizon. So when you're doing the naming conventions, think about these three methods, because sometimes I understand that it's kind of difficult to come up with a name for your weapon. That can be difficult. So let's quickly go over some tips for statting a weapon. The first one and most obvious one is just use already existing weapons that have the similar attributes to the weapon that you're making. So that frost axe or frost halberd or whatever it might be, what I'll generally do is I'll look for a weapon that already is an axe and has frost, and then I'll take those stats and then I'll tweak them to what I need. So it's not too complex, because there's no need to start from scratch and just come up with all these stats on your own, depending on the system that you're using, whether it's D&D 5e or Pathfinder or whatever it might be. If you just look up a weapon that already exists in that system and then adjust the stats as necessary to fit the weapon that you're creating. So some quick ideas or some quick suggestions when you are altering them. Do not make the weapon OP. OP means overpowered. Okay, what you're looking for when statting a weapon is to have it be balanced, right? So let's say that you have a weapon that's pretty powerful when it does damage, but it comes with a downside, like maybe the weapon's effect only happens within a certain time frame. So there's some kind of drawback that makes the weapon not OP. Even though it has a powerful attack or a special effect that does great, it still has some kind of drawback to balance that weapon out. So whatever you do, don't make weapons too overpowered. It can be, sure, it's fun for a little while for your players to have an OP weapon, but then they get bored of it because it comes too easy and it takes away the challenge of combat. So make sure the weapon is powerful, but at the same time has drawbacks to keep it balanced. Next is to keep it simple. Don't worry about adding all these crazy different stats and all this stuff. Keep it simple. And you can do that by just trying to copy and then altering already existing stats with weapons that are similar to your own. The last part, make it fun. It can be humorous, okay? Not everything has to be super serious. One thing that I notice is that players get fatigued when they're in a super serious setting. And sometimes I've noticed to kind of lift their spirits and keep them interested, provided I'm doing my job as a good DM or GM, sometimes players just get fatigued. No matter how good you are at keeping your players engaged, things happen. And so making it fun, having a little bit of humor, is a great way to kind of lighten that up. So some kind of fart weapon or a weapon that sasses back to you or doesn't fight back, or sometimes it'll say, oh, I don't want to strike this person. Adding a little bit of humor to your weapons is a great way to keep your players engaged, give them a good laugh, and to kind of keep it light. Because sometimes that just happens, all right? All right, so hey, that's it for that part. We finished the first half of the stream. Let's go jump into the request part. So I'm going to check over the chat here and kind of see what people made here for suggestions. Seeing a lot in here. Boarding axe, let's see here. Yeah, if you haven't already, go ahead and put in your request, an explosive stick. I like that. That's great. Yeah, throw your suggestions in here. I'm going to go over. Oh, I just noticed a first time chatter. Don't forget about the can opener. Oh, I love that. That's great. We got a skull crusher, a warhammer made with skulls. Oh, that's great. Oh, I like that. An EMP dagger. Oh, that's cool. Yes, my ice halberd of stabbiness. I love that. We'll have a weapon called Bob. All right, so go ahead and throw in your suggestions if you haven't already. I'm seeing an EMP dagger. We've got some here from the musical Rogue. We've got a pirate hammer with heads made out of pirate ship wheels. Oh, that's cool. Oh, pirate ship wheels. Oh, I see. Like a steering wheel. Oh, cool. I love that idea. Okay, well let's start with the pirate hammer. I think Keife has a gravity altering twin sword set, so we'll do that one. And then I'm seeing a porcupine multi-spike dagger and a war pick of destiny. Oh gosh, the shout out on the war pick of destiny. I love that. Let's go ahead and start with that. The Plunderer, which is that pirate hammer. I love that idea. That sounds great. Again, we're going to start out with making a pole. Is this like a two-handed weapon? What do you think? I'm thinking it should be like a two-handed weapon. So a nice long kind of pole is a good idea. There's also this one right here. I think we could use this one. This might work better. A medium size here. And then what we can do is, we're going to turn that shadow off. I don't want it. We're just going to do the second method, which is just to assemble it as a whole. Let's go ahead and choose a pirate wheel. I think it should just be under wheel. So there's this ship wheel right here. This could work just fine. So we could use that. If you wanted, I think this kind of works out just fine right here. You could just have it be like this, or you can have the two be side by side like this to make it a double-sided axe kind of setup. And it doesn't have to be, don't worry about the weapon being super realistic, by the way. Just want you to know that reality can ruin a good weapon. So if you're looking at a weapon and you're making it and it doesn't really kind of suit to reality, don't worry about it. It doesn't have to be realistic, right? I mean, a lot of the weapons that you see in D&D and other things, they're not realistic at all. So it's okay. Don't worry if they're not like perfectly realistic. So what I'll do is I'll maybe kind of put these wheels together and we can kind of use these to act as like the blade edges. They kind of come side by side like this. I think that overall kind of gives me the feel that I want to it. That's a good start. And then we could do is we can have maybe one of them be broken. So what we could do is type in wheel again and then use maybe one of the broken ones. We can throw that in there. I think that might give it a more interesting vibe and feel to it. So I'll go ahead and take that, break this piece off. And in fact, we'll put it on like, in fact, you know what? Let's use this broken piece as the axe. I think that'll work best. So these two pieces kind of connect like right here on there like that. And then we'll, let's see, I might want to consider flipping it. Wonder if I flip it this way, would it be better? We'll see. Let's try this. Not sure which one I like better, facing that way or the other way. I kind of like the other way better. So let's go with this way instead. We'll go back to flipping it and then have it face this way. Let's bring the size up a little bit. About that looks about right. That looks good. So you have that wheel piece. I think the broken part just gives it a little bit more character. And then what we want to do is maybe add more pirate elements to it. Remember, we've established the theme. Pirate, a nice hook maybe on the edge of it might be a nice touch. You could always put a hook for the headpiece. Let's go put a couple options down. That headpiece could work fine. You could also use an actual sword for the piece. So I could take the sword and kind of just put it down beneath of it and then place the sword just right there on top like that. If I want to have a stabby part, I could do that right there and then maybe put the hook on this side like this. A lot of different ways that you can kind of go about doing it. So you could have it like this. You have this nice weapon here like this. So you can have that. We can add in other things too. Like maybe we want to throw in some tattered pieces. Like we could add in like this piece right here that kind of goes down. We could have it maybe wrapping around it like this, or we could have it kind of going off like this, or put it connected to here. So a lot of things you could do there. You could add it, maybe a ribbon at the top right here like this that goes across just to show some action, the wind kind of blowing on it like that. So there's a lot of different things that you can kind of do there to kind of make it more interesting. We can kind of look over other pieces here that we might want to use. You could add more elaborate pieces, like maybe you wanted to have like an elaborate headpiece on the top. So you could have like a ship's piece, like maybe at the top right here, like this. Put it just right on top. Just turn that shadow piece off and just kind of put a little headdress, little headpiece on the top like that. So a lot of different things that you can kind of do. The swords worked fine. You could add like a lantern. Maybe you wanted to have a lantern at the bottom of it. Let's flip that around. I could put a lantern just right here like this, so it looks like it's at the bottom part. Make it a little bit smaller. So there's a lot of different things that you can kind of do to kind of create the shape that you want to come up with. I personally kind of like this setup right here. I like that, and I kind of like the sword as well. You can use multiple swords. Like you can have this curved one right here, or we could add in this one or this long one right here. It's up to you. I personally kind of like this one. I think this one kind of looks the best. I'll just kind of put it right here like this. None. So you kind of have that first kind of pirate weapon. It could coins. There's so many different things you could do with it. You could put like maybe like a sail or something on it. You could add in like bottles at the top right here. You could add in, I mean, there's just so many things that you can kind of do. Maybe you wanted to make it a little bit more ornate. You'll add a little ornate piece at the top right here. Like this. So this is just, there's so many things that you can kind of do. It's all about just kind of being creative and then kind of figuring out how to put it together. Let's go ahead and center this piece onto there, and then we're just going to group it. Okay, so here's the first one. I'm just going to rotate it. This is kind of like a pirate's blade. It's not really a blade. I mean, you could put like, put blades on this edge right here. Let's do that. I think I like that idea. Check this out. So we could just take this same shape that we used right here, use the pen, and then I'm just going to go ahead and create like a bladed edge that goes through here like this. And we'll go plus. Okay. Oopsie, that's not what I wanted. Let's turn off the blur. Make sure the fill is on. Oopsie, and I see that piece is kind of broken right there. I'm just going to go into the brush right here and just kind of erase. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to take this blade piece. I'm going to go down a layer. And now I have like some blade part right here. So there's my blade. And what I'll do is I'll add let's go ahead and add an edge to it. So I'll go ahead and start here. Oopsie, wrong one. I'll start here. We'll put that white edge that goes on like that. There we go. Let's make sure that it's up a layer and I can kind of see it. Bring the size down, bring the blur down. I want to make sure I can see that nice edge. There we go. And then I can just copy and paste these, create group, and then just place them, copy, paste, rotate another blade right here, like that, copy, paste, put another blade right here, like this, copy, paste. Okay, and now you actually have the blade part of the axe. Before, it just looks like you're just going to get stabbed with these, with the pegs on the edge of the wheel. But now that we have these blades, the wheel holds the actual blades. Now we actually have a cutting weapon there. So I think that works out rather well, adding in those blades there. Perfect. I mean, you could add the blades on this side too. Like if we wanted to, we could add just a rando blade like right here on this edge. Like that. Copy, paste, put another one right here if you want. So you could make it a double-edged blade. But I think I kind of like it better with just the blade on one side. I think that just makes it more interesting. But you could put blades on the other side to balance out the weapon. So you notice that there's metal on one side of the axe. That means it's going to be a little heavy on the bladed side. If you wanted to balance the weapon out, then just add those blades to the back part of the wheel. So pretty easy. So the next one we're going to do is we're going to make these kind of gravity-like blades that Faye mentioned. So let's go ahead and put those together. So just like before, right, we want to make some kind of, let's actually make it ourselves instead of taking a pre-existing blade, because I think this is a masterclass. It's a little more fun to make our own. So we'll go ahead and type in pole, and we'll use the pole as the handle for the swords. There's two of them. We only need to make one and just copy and paste them, really, so it's not complex. So we'll have the pole first, and these are gravity-like blades, okay? So what we'll do is we want to decorate it. So we'll add the pommel, which is going to be at the base of the handle itself. And there's some nice pieces in Gothic for that. I think this piece right here, this Gothic railing, is a nice piece that acts as a pommel. So you just kind of put that right on top and turn the shadow off. So now we have the pommel there, right there on the blade. Now we want to next we want to add maybe the hand guard. It could be a cross guard. It could be a rapier with a bell shape guard, whatever you want it to be. Just so you know, when you add some kind of guard at the top where the hilt is, where the handle is, that guard is to protect the wielder's hand from getting striked with a blade, okay? So we'll have to pick something that we want to act as the cross guard or whatever the guard might be. Let's type in trap. We might be able to use some stuff like this one right here might work for a nice hilt. I don't know. There's some perspective in it, so I'm not so sure if this one will work or not. See, there's a little bit of perspective here, and I don't want to add that. So let's not use that one. We could always use other things. There's a lot of different stuff that you can kind of choose. Sometimes just going over the catalog, expanding the assets, and just looking it over. These anvils can work just fine. We could kind of go over it. There's several options. Let's see here. I'm going to just look over some of the stamps we want to act as a cross. You could just use a pole, an already existing pole, but I kind of want to do something more interesting. Let's go back to Gothic. I have an idea. Let's go back to that Gothic stuff. And there should be a Gothic statue that I think might actually work well as a hilt. So let me go and just kind of look over here. Let's type in statue as well. Oh, nope, not finding it. Let's go back into Gothic Castle. There should be some statues that will work great for this. Let me type in statue. Just do that. Any one of these kind of Gothic-like statues could work well for it. But let's use one of these right here. And let's use this snake right here, or this one right here. This will work kind of great as a guard. It's a little thick. So what I'll end up doing is transforming it, change the height a little bit so it's a little bit better. And I can also flip it to kind of get that edge that I want. And then what I'll do is, I think because I want to make it, I think I'll desaturate all this stuff. So I have this kind of gray feature to it. Let's actually change the blade color to maybe be purple. I believe black and purple would be a great color scheme for this. And I think Keife actually came to me earlier with that suggestion. So let's go ahead and add that piece. So now we have that here. It might be a little too big. Let's bring the cross guard down. And then we'll actually make the blade part itself. There's a couple ways that you can do it. We just made a blade. So let's maybe go with a spike. We could use these spikes right here. These could work just fine. Let's place one like right on top, right here, like this. Custom none. Let's desaturate it. Bring it down behind it. And then let's make it all the way black. For now, we might change it up. But for now, let's just make the blade black. And I kind of want it to be distorted. You notice how the blade is not perfectly straight, to show that it's like it has this kind of gravity, to have this kind of unstable, powerful feel to it. I want the blade to be bent and curved a little bit. So we'll do that part. So now it's curved. I have that part of the blade. Let's go ahead and add in some effects to make it look like it's more interesting. So let's use a light source first. I'll go in. I'm going to type in light. Let's go ahead and use the orange light so I have a little more powerful color. And I'm going to scale it, transform it to where the light just goes right over it like this. So I'll have the blade just going right over on top like that. There we go. And then we'll change the hue of the light source so it kind of has that more purplish kind of color. We'll try to find that purple color. I think that works out great. And black sometimes does not show very well. So let's change the brightness to where it's a little bit darker, just a little bit brighter, so that this way the light source will absolutely affect it. So I'll put the light source on top, and then we're going to change that blend mode. And I think lighten is a pretty good blend mode, because what lighten will do is it will pick up and it will kind of place the light on top of it. So let's do step 1. I want to have a light source on top of it. And then I'm going to copy and paste and then put another one on top and bring the brightness all the way to black. Go to normal. And then I'll go ahead and bring that light source right here like this. And we'll change the transform. Let's change the height. Get that nice long kind of black feel to it. And now we have this black kind of center to it, like a black hole, right? A black hole. When you get to the event horizon, the light can kind of get trapped inside. And so I'm going to put a black in the center part of it, and then I'm going to have purple rating outside of it. Okay. So now that we have that part, I feel like it's not entirely done. There's probably more that can be added to it. So let's add some more effects. A great one is to type in Fey, and there are these Fey lights right here. These lights are perfect. So what I'll end up doing is I'm going to change the hue to fit that purplish color that I'm looking for. Or you can just make it black. You could do that too. Go to normal and just make it black. And I think black might be the best way to do it, actually. And then I'll go ahead and pick this, and I'm going to go ahead and change the transform. So the blade has these nice black kind of dots. And let's go ahead and change the height a little bit. There we go. And now we have these nice black kind of form pieces going around the blade. So it kind of looks like there's maybe like antimatter or something that's kind of emanating off of it, pulsing off of the blade itself. It's a good start. And then we might want to add in some kind of element to the hilt, because right now, or to the crossguard, what I'm kind of seeing here is maybe we could add like a gem or something. So maybe I want to take this gem right here and then just place it like right here on the blade itself. Custom. Let's change the hue to get that purple color that I'm kind of looking for, that purple color. And I'm just going to place it like right here like this, and let's maybe change the height a little bit so the blade kind of, this gem kind of goes up onto the blade a little bit like this. And now we have this nice create gravity like blade right here, and then we're going to make two of them, copy and paste, and they're short swords, so they don't have to be typically very long. So we'll just bring the size down, and then I'm just going to rotate them side by side like this a little bit, so that way you have these twin gravity-like blades right here. Okay, so there's our twin gravity blades. Let's go see what else we have in here. Let's see here. I'm going to make sure I didn't miss anything. Where are we at for time, too? 47. We can make one more. Okay, let's see here. Let me look over the list. Did anyone mention anything? Did I miss something? If I missed something, mention it right now, and I'll take a look over it. Hey, first-time chatter. Jericho says, yeah, gravity weapons. Gotta love gravity weapons. Okay. Let's see here. Anyone else? Nothing else? I can come up with own. I'm trying to look. What did I miss something? Oh, yeah, there was a skull crusher hammer with skulls. Oh, okay. You know what? I kind of like that idea. Let's do that. Let's go take a hammer. So let's go ahead and type in a weapon. This time we're going to augment a weapon because we're running short on time. So we'll just take an actual hammer itself like this. Remember to make it nice and big so that way it's easier to work with. And to edit, you'll end up scaling it down. And I saw, a flail of souls. That's cool. Made with actual souls. we don't have no fake soul flail. Only real souls here. I can't believe it's real souls. I just can't believe it. So skull crusher hammer. I like that. Hammer with skulls. I like that idea. Let's go with that. So we got the hammer. Let's go ahead and throw in some skulls. You can see there's multiple ones. I kind of like these kind of cow skulls, this bear skull. I think this is kind of a nice kind of element that kind of adds to it. I kind of like that. So we could maybe like add like maybe this piece right here like this to it. And then I'll flip it and then add it again, maybe on this side. I think that might do. We'll see. We'll add things as we go to see what kind of works well here. So we could add that here, or you can add them up like this if you want. It's up to you. We'll start with this first and kind of see where we can go from there. Skulls here. Oh, there's this one too right here, which this actually looks kind of nice as well. I'm not sure. We'll have to play around with stuff. Okay, let's see here. Oh, yeah. Well, just a straight request making would be awesome. A whole series on weapons would be cool as well. I'm kind of down with anything. Let's see here. Oh, I kind of like this skull right here. This one looks kind of good. Let's go with this one. There, yeah, I think that kind of fits better with the overall kind of feel with it. That looks good. It kind of fits well onto the pieces there. And then let's see here. Let's see what else we want to add to it? A hammer with skulls. Let's see here. Well, we could use... Let's take a look. I'm trying to figure out which would be the best way to go about doing this. There are these skulls right here. Might go well. Let's see here. Let's push it down a layer and then push this one down a layer. That might work. That could work. Let's try that. Let's move that over to here, put that over here. Let's also, just to make it match more. Hey, first time chatter, John. I'm glad that the videos help, by the way. We'll be sure to add a lot more. We just started cutting up the videos into smaller clips on top of uploading the whole streams, just because I understand that people are in a time crunch and they don't have time for, a full 30, 40-minute, hour stream. So I totally understand that. So we'll definitely be adding in more of those clips. Okay, so we'll add those skulls on that edge there. I think those skulls kind of fit well on the hammer itself. It kind of hides the blade a little bit. Let's maybe add in a couple more elements to it. Like, I think I like this skull right here. That looks good. Let's just saturate it so it sticks to the same kind of grayish color. And that might look good just right during the center right here like that. That kind of gives it a more skullish-like feel to it there. I think that looks good. And then we want to add some more skull stuff and then maybe some other elements to make it more interesting. Like we could add a skull here at the bottom, just like we did earlier. Bring the brightness. So we have a skull there. Up at the bottom here, we could add in a couple more things. I think some interesting stuff would be to like add in some spikes. You can add in some barbed wire or some kind of sharp vine or something might look good. Let's go over to stroke. Oh, we already have a vine set up right there. Perfect. Let's also have the vine be like it's a part of the design of the metal. So we'll desaturate it. We have some vine there. Let's bring the scale. Let's bring the brightness up on it a little bit so it kind of pops out. Brightness up, and let's bring the scale up just a little bit. There we go. And then what I'll do is I'll wrap some vines kind of going around here like this. Oopsie, let's take that up a layer so that you can actually see it. So go up a layer. There we go. Oopsie, and it's set to a blend mode. Let's go with normal. There we go. So now we have some wire kind of pieces that are going across, and then I can have them kind of wrapping around like this. Maybe having it go into the eyeball there, one going into this eyeball and then going behind it. Maybe have some wrapping around this edge right here like this. Maybe even have some kind of like just hanging down like this. Like that. Just to kind of give it a more interesting feel to it. So now you kind of have like this kind of skull crusher like axe set up. And of course you can always throw light sources. Like maybe you want it to have like, maybe you want it to be like a necrotic. It's got like undead energy or something, then you can just go in and then just change the light source to whatever color that you want. You could like choose green and then just put the light source right where the eyeballs are. Let's push that all the way up. And I'll just go ahead and put some light sources in the eyeballs just to give it a little bit more scary kind of feel to it. So you can give some color to it, create group. And now you have like this skull crusher kind of axe, and we'll scale it to kind of fit with the other stuff. So we didn't have a whole lot of time to make a ton of stuff, but you guys get the general idea on kind of overall just put things together. Remember those methods that we talked about, augmenting, which is going to be just so much easier. I do that for the majority of my stamps, and it's just because it's just less work for you, right? Maybe you don't have all the time in the world to hand draw every single weapon that you have. And so the augmenting method is a way of making weapons quickly, easily, and making them look good and efficient without having to worry about hand painting every single texture and stuff like that. So augmentation is for those of you who don't have the time to sit down and be like Jeremy and just hand paint every single detail on your weapon, right? That other method is for those of you who might have a little bit more time, right? And that is you build the stamp from scratch by using poles for handles, grips, things like that. And then you start putting stamps together to make each weapon. So it's all about being creative and thinking outside of the box. Just remember, when you're thinking about how to put together stamps to make a weapon, don't look at a stamp and say, ah, this is actually a pole. No, it's not a pole. It's actually the handle for an axe. Or this spike isn't a spike. It's actually a sword, or the blade for a dagger. Or you might look at a wheel and say, this isn't a wheel. This is actually the wheel that holds blades on it for an axe, like we did with the pirate. So it's just thinking outside of the box. And that's where I kind of get a lot of my creativity from. It's just thinking outside of the box. I don't look at a stamp and say, this is what this stamp is used for. No, a stamp can have many, many purposes. It's all about being creative. But if you struggle with figuring out what to make, stick with that prompt suggestion that I mentioned. Remember, pick the weapon type, axe, sword, dagger, and then pick an effect or a description. Like it might be a poison dagger, or it might be a head splitter axe, or whatever it might be that you're trying to put together. And then once you have the prompt, then you can start putting it together. So making weapons, much easier than you think, and it's a lot funner than you think, because it's just fun to kind of like put things together and start piecing together your own custom weapons. Because normally for me, not every weapon that's in the D&D catalog or the Pathfinder catalog for weapons is exactly what I'm looking for. And so this is a great way to make these custom weapons for your players that suits to their class, their race, and their background, whatever it is that they have, right? It's a way of making homebrew weapons easier for your players. All right. Well, hey, that is it. Make sure that you right now put whatever remaining suggestions that you have in the chat. If you didn't already, throw them in there, because I'm going to go back to the chat and I'll start writing down a list of the stuff that was missed. And then I'll go ahead and create these off screen or off stream and then add them to my profile so that you guys can use them. All right. Well, that's it for this masterclass session. Thanks, everyone. I hope it was helpful to putting your weapons together. I'll see you all on Friday for our next stream, okay? All right, please stay safe and healthy, and merry map making, everyone. Bye.